Hi. Long time no see. It's been a month since I've uploaded on here. So, yeah, I thought I would just come on here and do like a 1 month, like a life update. The month that I haven't been on YouTube, I've been basically like on a little work slash pleasure tour of the West Coast. So this is my little apartment in Brooklyn. This is Jacob, if you're new here. We also haven't seen each other for a month. So we had a very, very, very beautiful reunion yesterday. Who's my best one? I love you so much. Okay, so anyway, it's slowly but surely coming together. Um, it's gonna take some time, but like this is way more than was in the background if I tried to film a month ago. That's my suitcase. Reading has been dismally low. Even in a slow reading month for me, I would have like at least like 2 or 3 books, and like this is like not even one. Like I really haven't finished a book in a really long time. Also very, very, very out of practice in the filming because I've already stopped this like 30 times. I went from New York to Vancouver, Canada, and I was choreographing. I was commissioned to make a new stage work for a small dance company in North Vancouver with 7 dancers, and it was really it was so much. It was all the emotions. It was really, really beautiful and really exhausting, and like actually the working hours were quite low for like a 2 week creation. So I sort of felt like, oh, well, like I'll have so much time to like do all these things and on top of work, and I just forget every time because I don't always have the opportunity to like really just make work. I have to normally like, subsidize most of my life with other kinds of teaching work or just like more gigs here and there. And that was the first time like a professional company had brought me for 2 weeks to just like make a work for them. I've done that with like students before, but not with a company where the dancers are like older and like in their 20s. Long story short, I was so exhausted throughout the trip. Like I forgot like how fully consuming making a work is, or like really any kind of creative output like that. Like you just use so much mental, emotional, like attention, like a lot of energy. Um, but it was a really beautiful process, and like I'm really happy with what we made, and I like have become really invested in those dancers, and it was just like it was really great. So that was that. I was also staying with really good family friends in Lions Bay, which is like in West Vancouver. So beautiful. If you ever get a chance to like go up really like on the coast of BC, it's just so beautiful. My mother was also there, so we met we met on this trip, because she lives in Italy and I live in New York. So we met in Canada. We went on some ferry rides together to like little islands, and it was really, really good for the soul, but I was wiped after that trip. I did meet Literary Iggy. So Ignacia and I have been friends online since we started our YouTube channels. Her, me, and Rebecca started our YouTubes like around the same time, and we had like a group chat together, and I'm so happy to like have both of them now, now that I've met Ignacia in real life as well. Like just really good people and friends that I have in my non-digital life, like in my real life. Um, and it was so fun, and like we walked around Granville Island. We went to like the famous bookshop that literary Iggy works at and films at. And so that was kind of like a moment, and we went for a wine and a coffee, and I like introduced Iggy to orange wine, so that was really fun. It was amazing. If I have any pictures as I'm speaking about things, I'll just put them on the screen. But um, yeah, Iggy was just as incredible, lovely, funny, smart, beautiful as I thought she would be. So that was so nice. Another successful booktube to real life transition. And then I went to LA, and I haven't been to Los Angeles for, I guess it was probably like 5 or 6 years ago, probably 5 years ago, that I toured there, like the company that I used to dance in. We would sometimes tour to the States, and we did some shows at UCLA. That was like, yeah, many years ago. So I hadn't been back since then, and that was a work trip. So I hadn't been back to LA for like pleasure in like a really long time. I met old friends from high school. I stayed with also really good family friends who like I kind of grew up with, growing up in Nevada. I would drive to California quite often and specifically stay with this family in Santa Monica, and they're just so fun, and like I just like tag along with the surfers and go to the beach and walk around, and it was also nice to kind of like reconnect with them, and I think like it made me realize that my family is like so much more broad than my nuclear family, which has always been like that because we're a very, very small nuclear family. It was just like me and my mom and dad. And we always like lived kind of separate from like aunts and uncles and cousins and things like that. And like it just, there are all these not blood family that I like grew up with, or and it was just really nice to be like, oh yeah, like I do have like family, and I think that that's like really important to rediscover, like especially when you lose one of your parents, because my sort of image and sensation of family like changes and is changing since then. So I don't know, it was just, this trip was also full of like meeting people who I haven't seen in a long time that I'm like, you're like my sisters and second moms and like things like that. I was supposed to do some work in LA as well, but that like ended up falling through, and I think it was really for the best. Like I had a pretty just go with the flow, chill time, which I really needed after Canada. So I was I was happy that that worked out the way it did. And like, who can beat California weather, to be honest, really? We went through Topanga, we went to Malibu, I stayed part of the time in East LA, which was really great. Like Glendale area was really fun. I met friends there, and then I was staying on the other side in Santa Monica, and met a friend and drove around. Went to the Griffith Observatory, which was really beautiful. Saw the Hollywood sign. Like did all like the things that you do in LA, and there could like always be more time. And met up with like a really, really beautiful friend of mine named Mai, who is a gorgeous artist, and we like became really, really, really good friends, best friends in Tel Aviv, and I haven't seen her in a year. So she was back in LA because her brother was getting married. So, and she's from LA. So basically, I booked my flight there to see her, and then it just bloomed into this like really lovely trip. And then Ohad came and joined for like the last few days. Ohad's my partner, if you're finding this video out of the blue. And then we flew to Vegas, where I was for the past week, which is where I grew up, and we were teaching at my old performing arts high school, and also making a work for students at the dance studio I used to go to after school. Um, which is These are two places that I like continue to go back to, and like feel invested in being involved in like educating there now, and it's like all very full circle for me. So that was really great. Also working very, very hard, staying with a really, really good friend of ours, and we went like driving around and thrifting. We drove to Boulder City, which is a city a little bit outside of Vegas. I would say it's not like a ghost town because people do live in Boulder City. Like there are a lot of like quite beautiful, weird ghost towns in Nevada. I have like a very complicated relationship with being like from Las Vegas. I think I look upon that with a lot of judgment, and I feel like it's such a trashy place to be from. But actually, when I'm back there, I still get all those feelings. Like the place is kind of icky to me. Um, but like Nevada as like a desert is really beautiful. And it's really nice. And I'd like to actually do it more like as an adult. It all goes back to like the rediscovering family thing, and like coming back to the US after living abroad for, 7 years, 7.5 years. Like it's all this sort of like coming back to the child self, coming back to where you're from and who you're like in your family and things like that. And so I like also rediscovered like the desert beauty of Nevada this time around. So anyway, we drove through Boulder City, and lots of Trump signs, which was pretty intense for me. I bought this stunning ring in Boulder City. I'll take it off. Yeah, this is so, so beautiful. It's a real stone, handmade. And the woman that was working in this like little tiny shop, her and her husband are like pickers, and so they had like a really gorgeous thing of jewelry, and like she gave me such a good price on this ring, and it's just like way, way, way more pow than I normally wear, like jewelry wise. But I think I like have a lot of clothes and I don't have a lot of jewelry, so that's like, yeah, I don't know. That just called my name, so I got that in Boulder City. Could do like a whole other video on like all the things the damage that I did on this trip, shopping wise. Already like the last day that I was in Vegas, I was just like starting to get like a really, really sore throat. It's so dry there. I forget like how dry it is. So I'm hoping it's just that, but it's kind of like persisting still. So anyways, so now we're like basically back to current time. I am in New York here for like a month or a little bit more, and then I travel again. But I'm really happy to be home. We just got this apartment, so it feels like I need some time to dive into being here. And yesterday I just like really like snuggled Jacob all night long, and we went on a long walk, and just like walking through the neighborhood that I still like haven't really like settled into yet, and like the Halloween decorations and stuff. I want to make a trip up to Sleepy Hollow in November. Spooky and like atmospheric nature. Yeah, just like ready to kind of homebody a little bit for the next few days. And last night I started a book, which I should show you. Yes, Tinoch. Yes. Are you my good boy? I had a Japanese straightening treatment on my hair before I flew. That was at Room Salon in Williamsburg. and they were great, and I'm so happy about it. The maintenance in my day when it comes to my hair was something that was like very time consuming and also quite like frustrating for me. So I'm just like, my life is so much easier now that it's been straightened, and like it still gets kind of wavy, which is actually perfect. So I got this book from Ignacia when I was in Vancouver. I felt really bad that I didn't bring her a book, because obviously that's what you do when you meet up with a friend that you met on BookTube, is like give each other books. And I just had so much shit in my suitcase and like didn't think ahead and like just didn't bring anything. So I'm sorry, babe. But she gave me this. This is Coexistence Stories by Billy Ray Belcourt, who is an Indigenous Canadian writer from the Driftpile Cree Nation. So I cracked this open last night because I got home and I was like on a very weird schedule. Like I fell asleep. I woke up at left for the airport at 3:30 a.m. and then arrived here in the afternoon and then fell asleep at 7:30 and then woke up at 10:30 and walked Jacob in the middle of like really late at night, and then cracked this open and read, and finally went to bed at like 3:30 a.m. again. So it was like just a weird kind of, post travel evening. But I opened this and I realized something that I don't think I realized before, which is that it's a signed copy by Billy Ray Belcourt. And I read the first two stories last night. One is called One Woman's Memories, and the other one is called Lived Experience. And so beautiful. Like, I tried to crack this open like throughout the rest of my West Coast extravaganza trip, and it just like I couldn't get into it, or it wasn't the right time. And it's just pretty crazy like how books just find you at the right time, because the first story, One Woman's Memories, is about this older woman as she's remembering things and has a phone conversation with her son where she speaks about this like female friend that she had when she was young, and that she thinks it was love, and her husband has passed away, as well as the father of the son that she's calling. And just this like relationship between mother and son when it comes to grieving. And right before I had opened this book last night, I had a conversation with my mom on the phone, and we were speaking about my dad and his passing and like how it's affecting both of us. And so it was just like very timely that I would open to that story at the beginning of this book. And then so very beautiful. And then the second story, Lived Experience, is like a really beautiful queer, Indigenous queer love story between two young men. And it was just full of like so much hope and love. And that's like, right, the whole thing about coexistence is like, I'll read you the sentence. In a single living moment, all of the world's beauty and terror can coexist. Billy Ray Belcourt, writing from the perspective of being an Indigenous queer person, and like all that comes with that, and holding in every moment of life being an Indigenous person and what that means in a settler world, and then experiencing these moments of love and joy and hope, and like just holding these two things and letting them coexist together in oneself. The second story also like spoke a little bit about residential schools, which I knew a little bit about in Canada, but I learned actually more about because while I was in Vancouver making that choreography, there was like a holiday. I mean, holiday sounds like happy, but there was like a sort of like Memorial Day about or dedicated to kids whose lives were lost in residential school systems in Canada. So I learned a little bit more about that through the dancers and sitting with them and they all chose to come to work that day when they didn't need to. And so I started the day by just being like, can we talk about, I'm not Canadian, so I wanted to learn about that. And so we had like a really beautiful discussion together. Anyways, so it's just kind of crazy how like everything gets sort of meets you like in the right moments. So that's my current read, and let's see if I finish this. It will be like the first book I've finished in a month, 2 months. So I can't wait to crack into this today. I have been reading also The Last Samurai by Helen DeWitt, but I kind of fell out of that. But I did Joan, who's like an amazing human being that I love so much, and that I was staying with for part of my trip in LA. She's like an older sister to me. I knew that book would be just like perfect for her. Like, she reads a lot of classical literature. She graduated from St. John's in New Mexico, which is like, the great reading list of like all the great thinkers and all the subjects. So she's mostly like a classics reader, and I wanted to suggest to her something like contemporary that would still kind of like fit in the wheelhouse of things that she likes to think about. And The Last Samurai by Helen DeWitt I thought would be like fucking perfect. So I let her read a little bit of it while I was there, and she like ordered it immediately, and really loved like at least the beginning. And then in Canada, when I was driving back and forth, I was listening to All Fours by Miranda July and like enjoying it so much, but just like didn't end up being able to listen to all of it during that trip, and then like I've fallen out of it. But I did really, really enjoy. I think I got about like 40% through the book, so I should definitely finish listening to that because I love Miranda July's voice, and what I listened to I really, really enjoyed. Oh, I did finish a book, actually, an audiobook of The Pisces by Melissa Broder, and really enjoyed it a lot. And then I was like in LA, in Venice Beach, and that book takes place in Venice, in LA. So, everything just was like, the books and the life were like doing this. Look at this sweet, sweet monkey. That was half an hour of me blabbing on in a like very random fashion, and I feel like maybe when I edit this I should put things more in order of the trip. I feel like I went all over. Happy to film, happy to talk to you, happy to get back into reading. Like, haven't watched very much booktube at all. I think coming back home and maybe new home and like getting kind of more comfortable here and rooted here will give me a bit like the mental space, to pick up a book, to read, to film. So to pick up a book, to read, to film. So that's that. Okay, guys. I'm sick of talking now. So I'm gonna go read or finish watching Dark Winds, which is the series that I'm watching now on Netflix. I'll try to not be here for another month. Okay? Have an amazing day. Bye. Happy Halloween.